the long weekend. I'm here to be like perfectly imperfect with all of you as we do in our parenting lives, and excited to also share a special opportunity. Today is going to have a little bit of a different format because we're having the opportunity to talk about what it's like to have mentorship in our lives, alongside kind of giving you a sense of what is possible for you and your family, on some hot topics that parents ask me about all the time. So it's a little bit of like a blend today in terms of the format. But glad you're here. Whatever brings you here, maybe if you're here on Facebook or on YouTube or here on Zoom, just put a little note in the chat of like what brings you in. And if you have a particular question, would love to know, or if it comes up at any point, just go ahead and drop it in. Even if you're listening to the recording, just tag me and I'll have a chance to get back to you and see how I can support you. So why do I do these calls? Well, what happens is that folks join my community and start to, express things that are more or less difficult for them. And this is an opportunity for me to give some feedback to get started. This is in no way, though, the full solution. I'll be talking more about what it looks like to have that full solution in your life, but it can at least get people started. And I've been doing this now for 6 years continuously, at least once a month or sometimes every week, depending on the season. So I think we're over 100 times now at this point, easily, maybe 200. So it's been a pleasure to support you in this way. And here we are back for more. All right. Well, to get you started, I just want you to know that, if there's anything you're unsure about when it comes to what the program is going to be having in this next 6-month cohort, we're going to cover that today. And it would be helpful for me to know in the chat if that's something you're here for. Alongside that, I will be explaining and giving tips. So keep listening so you can hear both parts. I am happy to share that I'm pregnant and I'm expecting a child. I'll be hopefully welcoming them home around September 1st. And that has definitely given us an opportunity to kind of rethink how the program's going to run. And I've decided to put a pause on the program in January, except for my advanced students. We'll continue with our leadership and legacy cohorts. But for new clients, it's going to be sort of a pause for a chance to join. So if this is something you've been thinking about or wanting in your life, this is a good opportunity for you to kind of seize the moment while our semester is running and our esteemed coaches are all ready to go to support you from July through December. It's a 6-month cohort. And for more information, I have an offer put together, a website that you can check out. I'll put the link in the chat here and make sure that it's also in the description of this post. So if you need to go up there and check it out, but it gives you the opportunity to take a look and see like what is all included. I'll put up on the screen, like what is all included. What is sort of the idea behind it. Some of the results folks have been having, a video that you can watch with more tips if you'd like, some question and answers, some FAQs. You can hop over to see like what does the actual offer look like, what's included, how much it costs, what the pay structures are, and then just lots of great stories from folks I've helped over the years in the immersion, folks I've helped one-on-one, because it is a hybrid program where you get immersion coaching calls with our coaches and trainings and Q&As with the group, but also one-on-ones. And then some stories from our retreats, which we have our Motivation Mastery Weekend coming up as our retreat for this semester. Always welcome to also hop on my calendar, please. There are a couple of different spots where you can do that here, and I can put a link in the chat as well to hear more. So if you're just here for the first few minutes, now you have a thing you can do in case you can't hang and listen to the whole thing. Go ahead and take those next steps. We'd love to see you and talk to you about this wonderful opportunity. It's been such a pleasure to see all of the amazing results people have had over the years. I even have a client here on Zoom with me who's here to listen in on some tips just to refresh her memory, who's currently a member in the immersion. Glad to have her here. Hi. And yeah, this is the kind of place where we build a village, we build a community, and we solve our problems. We build our skills, we build our tools, we build our resilience. And what that can look like is a lot of different ways. So to kick us off, I have some slides to share with you so we can take a look at what it looks like to actually do this thing called, resilient parenting together, what it means to be in community as we're working towards our goals. Because, it can be lonely. I can. And I've had so many parents come to me who have, like don't feel like they have much of a life outside of parenting anymore. They're feeling like they had to give up so much to become a parent, and they're also struggling with some things. And I think that combination can be pretty painful. And I just want to acknowledge, if that's you and you're feeling like there's just kind of a lot, you're coming up against a lot, that I understand. And I've seen and helped a lot of families through it. I've been through it in my own seasons of, raising bonus kids, having stepchildren for a decade, so much more in the classroom. And the struggle can be real, and the loneliness and isolation can be real. So just wanting you to know that I'm here for it. I'm here for helping build a community around folks, however it is that they are participating. So here to get us kicked off are some slides. So it's called the Family Foundations Immersion. Again, this is a special 6-month cohort. Then we're taking a pause in January. So this, half the investment, half the time as folks who invest for the year. I still stand behind the year, but there's a ton you can get out of the 6 months. And we go through all of the topics one time through. And then, if and when we restart the program in the future, you're always welcome to come back and do your second semester. But a ton of people have multiple breakthroughs in the first semester, and we're really thinking of how we can use smart, proactive parenting strategies to build our resilience and create a legacy of love and connection. And I love those relationships to be built on mutual respect, mutual support, mutual trust, and appreciation. And I know a lot of folks have similar goals. And the reason why we want to focus on proactive parenting strategies means that we're trying to get ahead of things. So we're not just in crisis mode, trying to, always repair from the things we reacted to. Yes, the word on the street, from folks like Dr. Becky is like repair is the most important skill. Yes, and I'd like to say there's a lot we can do to prevent the conflicts and the problems in the first place, using smart tools and strategies that I've seen work in so many different families, whether you're a single household, single parent household, multiple household, multiple caregiver household, whether you're an older parent, a younger parent, whether you have 1 kid or 7, everything in between. This is for you. There's something here for you. And what we walk you through in the 6 months are my 7 pillars of raising resilient children. This has come from my many years of research in my master's program and afterward, my 15 years in the classroom, my 10 years of step parenting, and many more years of bonus parenting and helping families as a parenting coach exclusively for the last 7 years. And this is what folks want. They want better friendships, better social and emotional intelligence, and happy, satisfied kids who are excited about their future and want to keep opening doors and exploring and finding out what their potential is. We love kind and respectful kids who have less behavior challenges, both at home and school. Kids who do well in school with better GPAs and better engagement in school, and also some protective qualities like lowered anxiety, depression, risky behavior, and school dropouts. All of this has been associated with helping kids through improving their emotional mastery, their motivation mastery, their boundaries, having really good, clear, strong, realistic routines, having excellent conflict resolution and repair tools, creating a sense of teamwork and striving towards mutual goals as a family, and really working on keeping our relationships in a positive status. And through all of this, the kids do get to have more critical thinking skills, a sense of it's worth it to strive and it's worth it to pursue self-care and thriving. So that balanced future sort of skill set that our young adults will need as we launch them into the world. So this is giving you a sense. And of course, I have a whole quiz based on this that you're welcome to, get and assess yourself. If you click on the link, it'll give you a link to the quiz to book with me. It'll also have you take the quiz before we meet if you haven't yet before. But more importantly, you can expect to at least touch on each of these in your semester in the immersion. and get at least one idea that is going to move things forward for each of these pillars and even the subtopics below. So this is almost like a map to the learning that you can expect from a program like my Family Foundations Immersion. And so we're going to go into a couple of these topics just to give you a little taster and some tips today. When we're talking about emotional mastery and the sense of, kind of emotional intelligence or EQ, or we're talking about self-awareness, self-regulation, self, management. These are all skills that kind of fall under the emotional mastery umbrella. In plain English, it's just, being able to be aware of your emotions, naming your emotions, being able to make sense of them and do useful things with your emotions, process your emotions, be able to, move through them in a productive way and express them powerfully when you really need to, like when you're standing up for yourself or for a cause, etc. And one of the things that we have learned over and over again through the literature, in the classroom, in our families, in our program, is that when you build in some practices where you're practicing the calm down tools outside of the upset moments, this really helps the kids and you to have more in your tank when you're having dysregulation. It also prevents dysregulation, a good portion of dysregulation, because your nervous system baseline actually shifts to a calmer state. So one of my top tips here is to go ahead and practice your calm down tools outside of upset moments and do it alongside, others, so that you stay with it and stay accountable. I can't tell you the number of parents who start out the program saying, I tell my kid to breathe and they hate it. I was like, right, let's revamp that. Let's approach it a new way. We have a whole month in September dedicated to this topic, led by Coach Catherine, our esteemed coach, who is also an occupational therapist, and our two coaches in training who are now graduated to coaches who've been in the program for 4 or 5 years, Katerina and Sarah. So we have a lot of great tips coming your way in this, as well as, of course, the recording, the slides, and the handouts around this. And what we help you do is create what we call a resilience plan for each family member. And that can include things like your go-to calm down tools, maybe different ones for different emotions, a physical place you might go to, like a calm down nook or corner where kids can take themselves, or even adults can take themselves, and re-regulate and come back and make that a normal part of life, even expected, especially for the younger kids or kids with big feelings. And make that part of your regular experience as a family, so that you can get into more productive spaces and solve problems together in a calmer way and make sense of your feelings, and not just sort of go through difficult experiences and just be in recovery mode. We also try to really take the stigma. We all have what we like to call lids in our program that can pop off, and we need to put them back on. Like I added a little girl in this photo, but this is a real photo of a 10-year-old who had the resources from one of our events and wrote a whole plan of what she can do when she's feeling different stressors. And she made herself a little corner where she could go to just in her room. And it was such a nice change for her and her mom, where she would just take herself there, calm herself, come back, and they would have more productive conversations. So that is all a part of it. Now, we like to also kick off with looking at how to create robust routines. And lucky you, this would be, if you were to join, we're starting with this next week. We're going to be diving into how to create routines that really run smoothly or even run themselves, and, in an age appropriate level. We're always looking to build skills around self-management and care of self and care of the environment and care of like their personal belongings and others. This can include things like the morning routine, after school routine, homework routine, dinner routine. This can include, of course, the bedtime routine. This can also include mini routines, like how we transition when we're out in public to kind of regroup and reset before we go on to the next thing. I like to think of routines as sort of like the backbone of family life. We can spend like up to 6 hours a day in routines during the weekdays. Almost every hour we spend together is in some kind of routine. So if we put a lot of good attention on our routines, especially the ones that are wobbly, oftentimes this is one of the most proactive things we can do. And so what I always say is, one of my top tips here is that we are being realistic with what kids' current abilities and resources are, right? So whether they're, they've had a very long day at summer camp and they're wiped out, this might not be the night to have them help you with the dishes, right? We might save that for the weekend. And this might not be a night for, like like working on the homework the summer packet. We still need to make adjustments. But what I think is great about a realistic baseline routine is that it can be your default. You can fall back on it and then make adjustments. And one of my top tips too, on top of that, is that we always need to make more time for transitions than we think we do. I can't tell you the number of times I've gone into a classroom as an educational consultant and I've seen, some difficulty with behavior. And they say, oh, can you come in and help this teacher with classroom management and behavior? And I say, sure. But the first thing I want to see is their schedule, and I want them to have a chance to explain their schedule to me. And 9 times out of 10, they're not building in enough time for transitions. Kids are not naturally great at transitions, most of them. So a lot of the conflicts, a lot of the meltdowns, a lot of the challenges come with transitions. And so we pay special attention to that in our trainings. But just for you, for today, just making sure there's enough time for them, that it's realistic. Another thing is that we can build our children's sense of self, their self-esteem, their sense of capability, and their independence through teaching life skills along the way. And this is where the classic Jane Nelson positive discipline phrase of taking time out for training really comes into play. So what we used to do when I had a classroom of, let's say, 12, 24, 36, or 48 kids, depending on the environment I was in and how many teachers we had, we would every single day, at the end of the day, as much as possible, sit down and say, okay, what were the skill gaps that you saw where you had to give a lot of reminders? And I would reframe giving reminders, instead of it being a listening problem or a motivation problem, I would think of it more as a skill gap. And we'd start there. And let's say, what happens if we build their competence and then add in some intrinsic motivation, like making it interesting and making it matter and giving them some choice and autonomy? That's basically my motivation framework, by the way. We'll get to that in a moment. But so how do we teach these life skills along the ways, and even in small steps, and be patient, and maybe not have them try to learn it all at once. Pick things to focus on at a time and build their skill set. It really pays off in the end. So that's another big tip, and something I love helping families figure out, like where to focus, what's age appropriate, where are you going to have your easy wins that you can build momentum off of, where kids are starting to take pride and identify with things like being capable, being helpful, being confident, and having that strong sense of self. As a Montessori educator, this was one of my most important charges, right? Like, sort of, they said, if you're going to be doing Montessori right, you've got to be empowering kids with these life skills. And so this is I have a deep chest of tools on this. So if this is of interest, please consider joining the program or having a consultation soon. And then last, not first, making a visual plan together. I love helping families do this as well. After you've gone through my robust routines process, a lot of families make charts and they fail, and then they give up on them, and they don't realize the power of the visual and the third point reference for the family, where you're looking at something that has the authority and the routine can be the boss. So if you have tried a chart and it failed, I would challenge you to try again, especially in the context of a program like mine, where you're co-designing this routine together as a family, and we're picking the format that works the best for you. This is a picture of one of my clients, Jessica, who put this together for her daughter, and her daughter said, "Oh, Mom, we've got a problem," right? And of course, she did it collaboratively. She followed the steps, and then she said, "We have a problem." She goes, "Oh, what's our problem?" She goes, "We don't have one for the morning routine." And so that's why she has this big smile on her face, because her daughter took to it so well when she tried again, following the steps of the robust routine process. And her child liked it so much, she wanted one for the morning as well. And what she got to see were less power struggles and more independence, better listening in the mornings, more motivation. And of course, there's something you have to maintain about that. Sometimes, you have to revamp it and come back to it. But we also have tools for that, of how to kind of refresh kids' motivation for things that have maybe been sort of getting stale. Kids also love to graduate out of it. It's like, you don't even need this chart anymore. You've got this routine down. Let's now work on your homework routine, right? So kids love to level up. I would say, you're ready for the next level. You're ready for the next challenge. after really giving them that sense of pride of their accomplishments. So now we're getting into boundaries. So this is where a lot of families find they're experiencing the most difficulty. I would say that parents come to me either because they really are having challenges setting boundaries and are pretty worried that if they're too strict, they're going to somehow damage their relationship. They're going to cause some kind of trauma and rift, right, within the family, or experience a lot of pushback from their kids that's really unpleasant, like meltdowns and tantrums and, shutting down. Or even some like kids like internalizing negative things about themselves. On the other end of the spectrum, I have families that are where the parents are completely running the tight ship and the kids don't have a lot of voice in that, and they're starting to push back, and that's also causing some rifts and some problems. More so the first version. I think a lot of folks are trying to find their way into something that's balanced between being an authority figure and also being like a friendly, warm presence. And we would call that authoritative parenting. By the way, have a great parenting styles tool that is part of joining the program that I would love to share with anyone who wants to check out the program more about. But anyway, so getting into boundaries, I cannot tell you the amount of value there is in clarity. So the second thing that I go through with when I do educational consultant work, or kind of my intake with families, is I ask them, what boundaries are really clear and what boundaries are not at this point. Like, what do you feel like is working and everybody's on the same page, and what isn't? And this can be called, problem behaviors, or where we have difficulty listening. But really, I think of it as clarity. Like, are we on the same page about hitting? Are we on the same page about biting? Are we on the same page about cleaning up after ourselves? Are we on the same page about using foul language at home? Are we on the same page about so many things? And as the more clarity you can get together as a family and have a plan in place for how the environment, which includes the adults, is going to respond to crossing of boundaries, the better off you're going to be, the more proactive you're being, the more you get ahead of some of the most common problems that families have that are kind of in cycles with boundaries and behavior. And you know what? I think of it as also giving the kids some dignity, because if they have a heads up on what's expected, they've been given the life skills we talked about to meet those expectations, and expectations have been adjusted to what they can actually do, and they have a heads up of what's going to happen if they cross a line, then they really are making a choice in the end. And or there's something that's going on that needs to be investigated, like they're not able to make a choice. And what's that about? That's a very different conversation between than giving a kid feedback where they're feeling like they're either being a good kid or a bad kid. We're in nuances, we're in growth mindset, we're in connection, we're in problem solving, we're in learning and growth. So this is a big piece of it. The other thing that we tend to do is we tend to paint a picture of what's going to get them in trouble, what they shouldn't do. And we aren't always great at painting a picture and making very clear what is the replacement behavior, or what we do want from them, how we would like them to behave, even in the meantime. So for example, a kid who is currently trying to scratch their sibling and scream in their face, we are going to not say, be nice, like stop that, that's wrong, be nice. That's too big of a leap. We might say something like, I need you to put your hands down and stomp away instead. Right. Right. Or I will hold your hands. So they know what could be happening next, right? If they don't take that next step. I just want to welcome in Peter. Nice to have you here, Peter. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat or anything that stands out to you. Okay. Be happy to support you. All right. So the next thing I would say is that as we're building relationships alongside these tools and life skills, right? So we've got emotional mastery, we've got robust routines, we've got healthy boundaries. We're working towards, well, that was interesting. We're working towards making sure that kids have opportunity to have, I think Sonia or Peter, there's something happening with the video that I don't understand. So I'm wondering if you could please sign off. And try coming back. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm not sure what all that was. It may not have been you, Sonia, but something happened with Peters. I've never seen anything like that. That was really unusual. I don't know if you caught that, Sonia. Anyways.
I just caught it now. It looked like I was screen sharing myself, but there's nothing.
Yeah, something buggy, right? Yeah, I think it wasn't you. I think it was hacking into the Zoom interface, and then it kept putting your name on it, but I think it was actually through the last person who joined. So I think we're good now.
Okay, good.
That was really weird. Yeah, Sonia. Thanks for checking in.
It's not my kink at all, unfortunately.
Yeah, no. Yeah, me neither. That was weird. Okay. We're coming back to the presentation now. And yeah, and Sonia, give me a little sense of this has been helpful to you so far. That would be kind of nice after all that just happened.
Yes, no, actually it has been. And I just want to recognize that the thing you opened with, I heard, which touched on how lonely parenting can be. It just speaks so much to how much I went through when I had my first daughter. And so all of this, just starting with that, Vanessa, I just so appreciate you acknowledging that, because that's something that all of us go through, especially when we're in some of these situations that you're just laying out, just when we're trying to regulate ourselves and then, manage our children and help them regulate their emotions. And I just recently had that happen to me this weekend during 4th of July. So it's just like this stuff just keeps recurring, and we're just continuously learning. And also it felt very lonely when I was in it. So I just so appreciate you highlighting that, just acknowledging that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I think, holidays can be interesting, summers and vacations and winter holiday. We always do some prep for the breaks and seeing relatives. And I don't know, there's a whole ball of wax we try to, unwind too around parenting in front of others, what that can be like. And not everybody's going to share the same perspective that you do coming out of the program, but they start to glean it from you and your example. But I feel a lot of times like we're out there almost like ambassadors for like what it could look like to be an attuned parent who's like firm and kind, to be a collaborative parent who works through problems with their kids and builds their skills as like a higher priority than getting them to act right. Even though that's part of the goal, like all these ways. And I think it can be lonely when you're lost and not sure what to do. It can even be lonely sometimes when you're making huge strides and it just looks different from what other people would expect parenting to look like. So lots of ways that we should, acknowledge this piece and how much, strength and courage and like unwavering love for your kids and determination it can take to go down this path of this kind of balanced parenting approach. I've had so many families come to me and be like, gosh, it's so sanity making to come to these calls and be with other parents who are working on this similar goals. And Sonia, yeah, thanks for naming that. It's an ongoing process, because I know there's a wild world out there that we're bringing our kids into and ourselves into, and we're navigating day to day. Sonia, by the way, I worked with in private coaching and is now in the immersion for the year, and would be one of your cohort mates if you were to join this month for the July through December cohort. So I'm sure she'd be more than happy to welcome you in. So talking about how to build these positive relationships, I know that through robust routines, working collaboratively on your routines, working collaboratively to get clear on expectations and that dignity I talked about of really being, upfront about what happens when you do or don't follow the boundaries, being fair and growth oriented with our kids as they're building their emotional mastery skills and other skills. I also know that there is a special, set of tools that I pull on to really build up enough what I call relationship kind of like credit to spend on these tough topics. It's not always easy to get a kid to sit down and talk about their routine or to go over expectations or to repair a mistake. And if we build a rapport that helps the kids understand and really feel from us that we are there to be a teammate, it can make all the difference and open so many doors. So the first thing that I have folks work on is learning as many ways as possible to connect before you correct, which means it doesn't mean don't correct. It doesn't mean you're not an authority figure. What it does mean, though, is that you are an effective authority figure, one that will take the time to actually connect with kids, with your own children before you give them feedback. And it also makes you better at feedback. How many of you have told your kid to stop doing something when actually the thing they were doing wasn't the real problem? We can jump to assumptions. So it slows things down and also builds that trust and mutual respect. We would also like them to slow down and connect with us before they come in and do something too. And so this is a great social skill as well, and relationship building skill. I also happen to have done quite a bit of research through my master's project on ways to boost a sense of gratitude and appreciation, and specifically an appreciation of each other's character strengths and differences in how you like to give and receive affection, which is love languages. The original ones, not just like, oh, boba is my love language, which it is one, by the way. But what I mean is like the core ones, because sometimes some of the mismatches are even temperament mismatches can be really addressed with having an appreciation for each person's individual preferences, needs, desires, and ways they express themselves. So, and their unique contributions to the family. So we have a training on this that's actually coming up for our new clients. And if you catch it live, great. And if not, you can grab the recording and still get a ton out of the resources. One of my favorite places and favorite topics. Now, these are some pictures from my research and from some of the schools that I've brought my research to. This top right is the school that I was working at and gave the curriculum to the students and got to see the results. This is of a boy reading his appreciation letter to our Spanish teacher, who also started a gardening club for going to multiple stores to ask for donations for the garden and free seeds on his free time. And this little boy thought that was pretty cool. He really liked gardening, so he decided to write a letter to this person and his teacher and read it out loud. This is a whole community of kids who learned about the power of gratitude and made their own gratitude tree for things that they're grateful for in their lives. And this is a group of teachers that I led through a process of discovering their own and their teammates' character strengths so that they could see each other in their differences, what strengths they each brought to the team. So there's a lot you can do to tune into life's gifts and build appreciation of the people in your life. And this is especially helpful, like I said, if there are personality and temperament differences that even lead to conflicts. I would say especially with siblings or parent-child relationships, where it's like, oh, but I can't relate to my kid, or my kid can't relate to me, or the siblings are always disagreeing. This can be a really good connective practice that I also share with my cohort. So, and then what it can do is give you this sort of secret skill where even in the moments that are testing your patients the most, the ones where the kids are the most out of bounds or the most unexpectedly crossing lines, you can see that part of it, a piece of it at least, is them expressing their character strengths. Like these two kids, I just painted this wall. I'm furious. That duct tape is going to peel it off and I'm going to have to redo the whole wall. And look at how much fun they're having. So much humor, zest, teamwork, leadership, creativity. So much is going on in this picture. And they are making a memory for sure. They'll remember the time that sister got taped to the wall. So a resourcefulness, I can just keep going, right? And it's good to be able to do that. And it helps us kind of stay grounded and find some humor and some levity in life, as well as some appreciation. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about conflict resolution and repair. This is the one that I think is covered pretty well out there. You can, hear a lot of resources. I think I mentioned Dr. Becky talks a lot about how repair is the most important tool that a parent can have. But you can see how there's a lot we can do around how we set up our daily life, how we communicate and create collaboration and teamwork, how we can get ahead of a lot of the problems that might cause the conflicts and the need for repair before we even go towards repair. So I like to say that, kids can learn the skill that there are like effective repair tools to fix mistakes, including like a 3-step apology, I statements, ways to, check in and make sure that you've actually fixed your mistake, ways to make agreements for how we can improve going forward, and even using things like family meetings where you come together and you discuss an ongoing issue that keeps creating a need for repair, and how are we as a family going to get ahead of this issue and maybe break a pattern or a cycle. And that could mean personal accountability, it can mean group accountability, it can all these skills that they'll need out in their lives. How many of you know, like in your workplace environment or in your adult relationships, you appreciate when people have a variety of problem-solving strategies and they know how to repair and they come to the table and they take accountability and you can count on them. These are high value people, like people that you just like can really trust and give responsibilities to and look to for leadership and mentorship and all, generative sort of contributions to society. So this is a kind of a culminating piece of everything that we've talked about today, is when the kids are really able to do that. And last but not least, the rocket fuel inside of all of this, and this is what our retreat is about this month, is motivation. How do we motivate ourselves and our kids in ways that really taps into what we call intrinsic motivation, where it's deeper, it's from a deeper resource. And the first thing we need to learn how to do, kind of circling back to emotional mastery, is we need to learn how to take good care of ourselves and each other. And that's why the routines and the boundaries and the repair are all a part of that, right? You can imagine how much more self-care you can build in when you have less conflicts, smoother running routines, and better boundaries in place, where everybody's on the same page about behavior and expectations, right? When you have more of your tools in place where we know what works for each family member. I have heard parents say that they went from empty tank to quarter tank to half tank and are regularly now at half tank or fuller in their parenting life because they have tackled these pieces. Now, we can't do them all at once. That's why we have 6 months to spread it out, and even more mentorship possible after that. But at least 6 months to kind of jumpstart these pieces and get us to a place where our baseline is just so much healthier and more robust. Because, the bigger your dreams are and the more you want to change and grow, the more self-compassion you need to have along the way. And I think one thing that I'm known for is I give you a lot, but I help you focus on a little. Like, I want to help you find the tools that are going to make the biggest difference and focus on that. So each month, you're really just picking one thing every 2 weeks to focus on. And that's where the transformation happens. That's where the breakthroughs happen. It might be one routine you work on, not all of them, but one to start with. And once you get that one down, you can use it as a template. It might be one to two boundaries, maybe 3 at the most, that you work on for the month of the boundaries. It might be 1 to 2 to 3 intrinsic motivation tools that you pull from our retreat that you're going to really rock and see how far you can get with, right? It might be one of the repair steps that sticks out to you. But imagine if you touch on all of these areas, including boosting your relationship and building emotional resilience, like that's a lot of accomplishment in 6 months that could really come together. And so by this time in December, you're starting to go, you know what? I took the committed, steady approach, and I got help and I got support, and I didn't have to do it alone. And I was smart about it. I was proactive about it. And I can be compassionate towards myself and my kids for what is still left to do. Because is 6 months enough to like radically change everything in your life all at once? Please don't try. Can it be a breakthrough, though, of where you start to feel differently about parenting and about the potential in your kids? Absolutely. And that can last a lifetime, as well as just repairing and building trust where maybe it's been damaged in the past. So we're going to work on things like clearing obstacles to motivation, not just for the kids, but for you. We make sure that it's interesting. The content is interesting. There are stories, there's slides, there's handouts you can read and write on. There's a good, robust learning process for you. This is not just a bunch of videos to go watch on your own. This is a really engaging process where you get to ask questions and get specific coaching for you and your family. We identify skill gaps, not only for you, but also the kids that you want to focus on first. We look where maybe you've been shutting down or the kids have been shutting down because of a sense of lack of autonomy. And we get you connected up with your families in the program, but also help your kids feel like they have more company with the things that they're developmentally working on. So there's less loneliness. And maybe even more bandwidth for doing things like hosting play dates and, joining something that you might not have been able to when daily life already feels hard. And we're going to move through anything where you're fixed in your mindset, thinking this is how it is, this is how it has to be, this is just how kids are. There's a lot of giving up in those statements, and we would like to kind of challenge those and say, okay, so which of those things are actually true, and which are things that we just are kind of stuck on, and we maybe need to, refresh our mindset and move into more of a growth mindset and start finding some smart tools to put effort into and seeing where the change is possible. So this is not just information. This is a whole process. It's a transformative process. And what we want you to do, again, is to pace yourself for the long game. They say that making consistent 1-degree shifts, or I would say one tool at a time, one behavior at a time, one routine at a time, right? As we go, can actually get you to a place, where 1% in improvement over time can lead to like 37 times more improvement as it compounds. So we're not looking for you to leap into something that doesn't feel right to you, that feels unnatural, that feels like this is not you. I wasn't raised like this. I don't know how to do this. We want you to make incremental change that builds momentum over time. And that's why we have families in our program for 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 years, is because they see what happens in the long term, in the long haul, when you really stick with not just your community and your mentor, but you stick to the plan of bringing in smart tools and keeping up with your kids' growth and development. And I always say, accountability doesn't happen between like you and a blank piece of paper. Like that's like the hardest version of accountability, or just you and your device and your phone when there's 20 other things you could be looking at, whether it's work or for fun. Distractions and things. We need accountability partners who will mentor you and be with you along the way. And that's why we really emphasize community and connection and make personal connections with each and every one of our clients. We keep our programs small so that we can get to know each other, and especially that their mentors know you deeply. And here's just some photos from a couple of times we've gotten together in person for some retreats, but just to give you a sense of it, as well as one of my co-facilitators in the advanced level, Coach Rochelle. So I'm actually going to shift to a little bit of a different spot in here, but as we're reaching towards these, these goals together, we want to be able to make sure we put solid support systems in place to make sure that accountability is actually robust and easy. The way I think of it is like, in order to meet mutual goals and have that sense of teamwork, you just have a solid support system in place. So the way I like to say is like, I've tried weekly, I've tried monthly. What really works is every 2 weeks you have a touch point, and that can be a one-on-one meeting, that can be coming to a live session. But over 6 months, that's 12 touch points, right? At least. And then some additional ones as needed, as you weave in your one-on-one coaching and come to some of our special events. But imagine what it'd be like to just say like, I know what I'm focusing on these next 2 weeks. And I know I have some accountability built in where I'm going to come to the call, or I'm going to, go to my one-on-one, and we're going to check in about my progress. I don't know about you, but that puts some fire under my butt to actually follow through on the plan that I made. And I also think like it's kind of tragic in modern life that we have this idea that, we don't, that we're supposed to kind of do it all on our own. And I just say, parents, don't let other parents raise kids alone. It takes a village of resilient parents to raise resilient kids. And even me heading into in my next chapter of motherhood, solo motherhood here, I had a baby shower and I had so many people show up, from people I've known for my whole life, people I've known for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 1 year. Clients and their kids came, folks I've worked with before, colleagues, dear friends, friends from my dance community, like all showed up and showered mom and baby. And it's because we're building community, and that is really the way it's supposed to be. That is how we have naturally evolved. We're not supposed to do this alone in a house by ourselves. It's not how we're built. So this is one version of building your village, is having this like-minded group of parents. And I just say, like, find your people. And maybe there's something in this presentation that doesn't sound like your people, and I would encourage you to go find your people somewhere else then. But if you feel like this group of the calm, empowered parents, and I'm going to introduce you to a couple more just by showing a few other slides, but you can check out in the website that has the 6-month cohort offer all spelled out, right? The program all spelled out. You can check out and listen to some of those videos and see, see if these are your people, because what we like to think is that we're calm and empowered parents. At least we're working on both those things, raising happy, confident, and resilient kids. If that resonates with you, then maybe this is your people. We are your people. Here's some examples of some folks that have joined the program over the years: leadership members and alumni. We have single family solo parents. We have one family all under one roof. We have intergenerational families. We have 2 household families. We have queer families, straight families, everything in between. We have just a really, really diverse crew of people where we have mixed race kids and, not mixed race kids, and just everybody seems like likes to come to this, and with a similar goal of raising resilient kids and moving through powerfully these years of parenting. And I love what Tiffany says. She's actually been working with me now for we're in our 6th year. So I've really seen her daughter grow up and supported her through many, many different chapters. And my gosh, has she been an amazing role model for kind of claiming her vision and creating sovereignty for her and her daughter. But this is what she had to say, that she has that it has had a ripple effect to the rest of her life. It's not just applicable for children, but for family members and coworkers and friends too. And all this makes sense. Everything that I mentioned would be healthy for a workplace, would be healthy for, intergenerational relationships for sure. And she says, we want to do right by our kids so they are healthy, functioning, strong, and contribute to their community. And you can hear more from Tiffany on the videos that are on the page that I shared with y'all. This was Amras, a teacher who says she knows what to do with her own students, but when it comes to her son and their dynamic two household family with 4 different parents, she wanted some help coordinating things. And she said that she felt more dedicated to improving communication between the multiple households and being able to bring in the fun to diffuse the power struggles between herself and her son, and really remembering to connect before she correct. And she says that life at home is so much smoother now after having been in the program. And then there's Carlos, who's of Carlos and Juicy. They live in San Leandro, father of 2. And he had this daughter that was pretty tough, big emotions, lots of yelling, lots of meltdowns. And he said that after working, and he was in the program for 2 years, after working with the tools and focusing on things, even as soon as 3 to 6 months in, he saw a difference with his daughter. And he said she actually uses skills she's learned to calm herself down. We went from having our daughter be the kind of person who's more challenging to now being someone who's learned how to control herself and has self-regulation skills. So you can see there's so much here for folks if you like it. And so your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to join the immersion for our special 6-month cohort. We'd love to help you empower yourself through this program. For parents and caregivers with the 7 skills from the 7 pillars. To help you feel more confident, calm, and in control, especially during ups and downs, knowing that you have a community and folks to lean on who are there for you. And that way you can create the family of your dreams, the one that you really want, maybe that fosters growth and learning and connection. That's what we're here for. And again, we will make sure you get get at least 1 to 2 or 3 tools for each of these pillars in your first semester to work with. And whether you continue with us after that or not, you'll have full access to all of the material, lifetime access to the recordings as we help you through these tough topics, things like power struggles, meltdowns, tantrums, setting limits clearly, consistently, fairly, winning cooperation, etc. So much more. And what we've been hearing from folks is that this program helps take the guesswork out of parenting, so you know more what to do and what to say in those toughest moments and create more ease and enjoyment in daily life. It helps folks to step out of stress and overwhelm into more calm and confidence. And we give you a whole menu of ways to choose from to engage, so you can have support in the ways that work best for you. I've had couples join, co-parents join, where one comes to the live recordings, one listens to the recordings, one comes to live calls, other one listens to recordings on their commute, and then they read the guide together, and then in their meeting, in the one-on-one meeting with me, and that's how they do it, right? There's a lot of different ways to play, but here are the options you have. You can come to a monthly training call. And then about 2 weeks later, we have the Q&A that we go over the material and check in on your progress. And then about 2 weeks later is your next monthly training call. Like I said, about every 2 weeks, we have something for you that's live. We also have a whole course library with handouts and everything ahead of time, so you can look at all the material for all of the topics right from the beginning. And those handouts can be really helpful to kind of build that parenting manual that we all say is out there somehow. It's elusive, but we're actually going to build that together. And you have lifetime access to that, to the course. So every recording we save there, every handout we save there, it's all there for you to refer back to. We also have, right now, we're still on Facebook for a private Facebook group where we run some contests and do some chatting, but mostly it's within the calls that we connect, and people kind of pair off and text each other as well. And then we have these little smaller groups called resilience support teams led by some of our coaches that have been with us for 5-6 years, and helped you to get into really good, rich conversations. So those are the group pieces. And then you also have these really amazing mentors. I brought in a marriage coach, Imani Aisha, out of Atlanta, who's now in Panama for a year. She's bringing her family into some world schooling for a year and is pulling that off with her 2 young children and her husband. So she's a real inspiration. Catherine is local to the Bay Area, also here, and she's in Richmond. I could throw a rock at her house. We happen to be neighbors, but she's an amazing occupational therapist who helps kids and families navigate things like the IEP process and other things that are related to diagnosis, assessments, accommodations, sensory needs, sensitivity to food, sensitivity to clothing. There's like so much there that she's amazing at. And she also has a speech and language pathologist now in her practice that we can also tap into. So excellent practitioner, gives incredible advice. Both of them co-lead trainings, not only in our retreat coming up, but also during some of our monthly trainings. So that is our invitation. Now, usually we have a year-long program, and it looks like this, where you put down $29.97 as a down payment, and then pay $5.97 monthly over 12 months. Right now, we have a special invitation where instead of that, we're asking for half, like less than half for the down payment of $4.97. That saves your spot. That gets us our whole administrative team going and getting you set up. And then you still have a $5.97 payment, but it's only for 6 months. So it's half as long, half as much time, half as much money, but the full immersion experience of all 7 pillars and a full retreat. And if you decide to pay in full, we'll also give you an additional savings of the deposit off. And then what I like to do is build in so many bonuses that the investment makes sense. I've also been in coaching programs. I was in one for 3 years, and I was always like, okay, but what is my bonus stack? Like, help me make this number make sense in my brain. So a couple of things I can say is that you get lifetime access to everything. So you own the course. You get one-on-one calls, which are very valuable. Folks are paying $500 to $600 to meet with me for a 15-minute call, because it's not just a call. It's not just my time. It's my expertise. It's, incredible notes, links to resources. I mean, it's truly a deep consultation every time. So you get 3 of those, and you can meet with myself, Coach Imani, with Coach Catherine, your coach of choice. I also build in our virtual retreat experience, which is a motivation mastery weekend, 3 days of mentorship, 8 sessions, so much information that you would ever want. It's all research-based, on intrinsic motivation, and a model that you can use for yourself and for your kids for the rest of your lives. Really powerful stuff. Can't even do it justice right now, but I'm happy to tell you more if it's something you'd like to know more about specifically. I also make sure that we do a relationship boosting VIP training where we start to talk about how to connect before correct using gratitude practices and character strengths. And that's coming up. That's how we kind of kick off our semester. And then I like to include two trainings that I've recorded that are courses that are standalone, but I don't usually give to people outside of the program, because I find that without the mentorship and the container, they don't have as much value. But what you will have access are nine videos for this resilience boosting program called the Resilience Program, that I've recorded, and it would be one of your bonus courses that has a $1,000 value, and also a 6-part Finding Your Calm in the Chaos series that really helps give you like a whirlwind tour through amazing coping tools, so that if that is something that is one of your goals, you can have that there for now, or for any time you and your family would like to, kind of beef up your coping tools. And it's really fun and interactive. And then if you sign up by July 15th, so that you're really can engage early in the cohort and get started and really get as much as you can out of these 6 months, you'll also get a bonus jumpstart session, which is be a 90-minute sit down with me, a VIP session, where we map out your parenting styles with a powerful 4-quadrant tool that honestly is mind-blowing for most people, and we refer back to over and over and over again. Even clients I've had for years, we still come back to it. It's that powerful, and it can help you make parenting decisions in a snap, in the moment, about how much support and how much demand to combine in the moment. That'll make a lot more sense after you learn the tool. But I just want you to know it's something that I've seen revolutionize people's parenting styles. So that's why I love to include it for folks who are really motivated to jump in. And that has a $900 value. And of course, it'll help us to see where your starting point is and where you want to go, which will give us a better sense of your goals. And of course, we'll talk about kids' behavior, what routines, what different pieces we want to focus on more in the semester and map that out. But it'll be so much more informed if we have these parenting style pieces in place. And we're going to actually look at, what is the parenting style that you were modeled to, was modeled to when you were a kid? What is your baseline? What are you used to? What could even sometimes be your default in your less resourced moments, and the awareness of that and kind of an acceptance and a sense of, okay, this is what we're working with and this is our starting point, and look at where we can go. Right. And everybody has a different starting point. Some folks have had parents that were really hands-on. Some were like pretty much absent. Some were really strict. Some were really permissive. Some were a combination that was really confusing. And that was what you were used to, what you grew up with, that you're trying to do better than. And having awareness of that from the get-go is a really powerful way for us to start our work. So this is an incredibly valuable bonus. I hope that folks get it to take advantage of. All right. So as you can see, this was a blend, right? You have the program run through. Hopefully I've answered a lot of questions along the way. Hopefully you've also been able to just grab some tips and tools. If this is not your time to join a program like mine, no problem. But just wanting to know that I see you, that you're a parent out there doing your best, trying hard to, weave these pieces together and create a robust approach to parenting. I also want you to know that there is a structure that exists that you could potentially invest in, just like we invest in like aftercare classes or summer camps for our kids, because that structure is so helpful. That if you're a person who does well with some structure, just like maybe your kids do, consider giving this to yourself and as an investment in yourself and in the future of your family. As I've seen so many amazing families do, we've now had over 200 families that we've helped, and it's been an incredible honor and experience to be in community with each and every one of these folks. I think you would be very inspired and grateful as well to get to know the families here and be a part of this powerful movement that we're creating. That's not, it emerges naturally from this deep desire to do right by ourselves and our kids and to create the family that we just really, really want to experience while we have our kids at home. We have this window, this precious window. And so however you go about it, I encourage you to keep taking steps, to keep learning, to keep your mind open, to pick yourself back up after a tough day and give yourself a new day the next day when you wake up, knowing that there are other folks like myself and my coaches and our community members doing the same thing alongside you. So whatever that looks like for you. And I'm going to put a couple more links in the chat, but also at the top of the posts, you should be able to hop onto my calendar, check out the immersion program, and also listen to a video walkthrough that's just a little bit shorter than this has been to check out. Yeah, if this is for you. If it is, don't hesitate to either put down your deposit and then we'll talk and we'll see if it's for you. And it's fully refundable within the first 48 hours after paying. So we just need to talk and see if it's a fit, grab your spot. We're going to be closing down the, enrollment soon. Another thing you can do is just get on my calendar, hop on it, and we can just chat and see. I promise I will be very kind to you, and you'll only have you join if we both think it's a good fit and this is the right time and the right community and the right program for you. Last thing I want are folks in the program who shouldn't be there for whatever reason. So we've done a really good job of finding great families that are motivated and excited, and maybe that's you. So if you'd like to go through that process, that in itself can be a really nice affirming and learning experience. And I'm more than happy to do that with you. So please check out my calendar link or shoot me a message at raisingourresilience@gmail.com if you need a different time. Myself or my assistant, Lena, will help you get creative with scheduling, and we'll find a time. Even if it needs to be a night or a weekend, we can make that happen, especially in this enrollment time where folks are really leaning in and looking and considering the program. So yeah, don't be shy, please. And also to put something in the comments. Let me know something that you took away from this, an impression you have, a question you have. I love that kind of engagement and would welcome it. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up. I just want to say that each and every one of you absolutely has the potential and is probably already on your way to becoming a calm and empowered parent, raising happy, confident, and resilient kids. And you're in good company. So lots of love to each and every one of you. Great job today, staying with this this kind of mini training. We've got Sonia putting a heart up here on Zoom. Yeah, Sonia, thanks for being here for the whole hour. So happy to support each and every one of you today. And be well. Have a great week. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.